When you think forest, what comes to mind? Probably these huge, towering trees, right? A canopy stretching way up to the sun. But what if I told you that some of the world's most incredible and resilient forests never actually get taller than your knees? Yeah, you heard that right. Let's dig in and figure out why.
It seems like a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer, well, it's pretty complex. We're kind of wired to think that bigger is better, that height equals success in nature. But that's just not the full picture. The real head scratcher here isn't why they're short, it's how they manage to thrive by staying so small.
And right there, that's the absolute key. This is not a story about a failure to grow. Not at all. It's a winning strategy. Staying short is this powerful, clever adaptation to some of the toughest places on the planet. We're talking about resilience here, not some kind of defect. Okay, so first things first, let's get on the same page about what we're actually talking about here. These miniature forests, they're not just a bunch of baby trees waiting for a growth spurt. No way. These are ancient, totally stable ecosystems that have found their perfect and permanent size. And you can find these things all over the world. We're talking exposed mountaintops, windswept coastlines, places with really poor soil. They are fully mature, complete little worlds, just shrunk down. So what's the deal? What's keeping them so close to the ground? All right, let's start with the big, unbreakable rules, the laws that no tree, no matter how tough, can get around. And the very first rule that dictates how tall a tree can get, it has nothing to do with biology. Nope, it's pure, simple physics. Okay, picture this. A tree's trunk is like a super, super long straw. As the tree sucks water up from its roots, it creates this tension. And the taller the tree gets, the more tension there is. At a certain point, you hit a physical limit. Air bubbles literally form and break the water flow. It's a process called cavitation, and it puts a hard, non-negotiable ceiling on how tall any tree can possibly get. I mean, it's a constant battle against gravity and physics every single day. And for trees that are already dealing with harsh conditions, like it's super dry or windy, that hydraulic limit, it's reached way, way sooner. That forces them to stay short or risk a total catastrophic failure of their water supply. It's a huge gamble. So, physics sets the absolute height limit, right? But chemistry provides the actual building blocks. And if you don't have the right ingredients in the soil, you just can't build a skyscraper. It's as simple as that. It's kind of like you are what you eat, but for trees. They need things like nitrogen and phosphorus to build their trunks and leaves. So in places where the soil is really poor in nutrients, think about some tropical rainforests where constant rain just washes everything away. The trees just can't get the raw materials they need to grow tall. And again, they're not struggling. They've perfectly adapted to living a life of scarcity. Okay, so we've covered the invisible rules. Now let's talk about the forces you can actually see and feel. The things that physically sculpt these forests. They're like nature's own bonsai artists. Up on an exposed mountaintop, the wind is just relentless. It physically batters and breaks any little shoot that dares to grow too high. So what do the trees do? They're forced to literally crawl along the ground, creating these incredible gnarled, twisted shapes. The German word for it is krummholz, which means crooked wood. I mean, it's a daily fight for survival that's etched right into their very shape. Now this is cool. In really cold places, like alpine or Arctic regions, snow is actually a lifesaver. It creates this cozy, insulating blanket that protects the trees from deadly freezing temperatures. So any branch that pokes its head above that snow line, it dies. It's that simple. The height of the entire forest is literally decided by how deep the snow gets in winter. Then you've got fire. In ecosystems that are used to it, fire acts like a giant lawnmower. Frequent low-burning fires sweep through and just kill off the taller, more vulnerable saplings. This creates an environment where the only plants that survive are the ones that can just re-sprout from the ground up, keeping the whole forest permanently short. And what about the coast? Well, there, the enemy is literally in the air. There's this constant mist of salt spray blowing in from the ocean. It lands on the leaves, damages the plant's tissues, and stops it from growing tall. It's like a natural salt pruning that keeps these coastal forests short, dense, and unbelievably tough. All right, so we've looked at all these external forces pushing down on the trees. But here's where it gets really fascinating. It's how these forests have taken all that pressure
and turned being small into a brilliant internal strategy for survival. Just look at how they manage their energy budget. A tall tree, it's basically gambling everything on a race to the top, trying to get the most sunlight. But a short tree, it invests its energy way more conservatively. It puts it into building strong roots, or making chemical defenses to ward off pests, or even just reproducing earlier. It's not about being weaker at all. It's about playing a completely different game.
And the advantages are pretty clear when you think about it. By staying small, they're less likely to get snapped by the wind, they save precious water and nutrients, and they can pour all that saved energy into what really matters in their world, hunkering down and just surviving for the long haul. So let's pull all these threads together now, because it's almost never just one single thing at play. The most spectacular, the most amazing of these short forests, they're created when a whole bunch of these pressures combine. Let's take a classic mountain elfin forest, for example. You've got poor soil, harsh wind, a super short growing season, and it's almost always covered in clouds, which limit sunlight. Now, any single one of those things might not be a total deal breaker, but you put them all together, and boom, you get the perfect conditions for a thriving, highly specialized miniature world. And don't let their size fool you, these tiny forests are absolute ecological powerhouses. They hold fragile soil on steep slopes, they store a surprising amount of carbon, they provide these super unique habitats for animals and plants you won't find anywhere else. Yeah, they're small in stature, but they are huge in importance. But here's the catch. That incredible specialization also makes them vulnerable. Climate change is starting to alter the very conditions they're so perfectly adapted to. A little bit warmer, a change in the weather patterns, and that could be enough for taller, more aggressive species to move in and completely wreck the delicate balance that's existed for centuries. And this quote, I think, just says it all. The success of these forests is such a powerful reminder that growth isn't always about reaching for the sky. Sometimes the most resilient, the strongest strategy is to stay grounded. So, as we're facing our own big environmental challenges, maybe there's a really profound lesson in all of this. In a world that's always obsessed with bigger, better, faster, maybe there's some real wisdom to be found in the small, the patient, and the perfectly adopted. It's definitely something to think about, isn't it?